Director An Li. Nice to meet you here today. I really appreciate your time and energy in taking our interview. My name is Feng Chen. I got my film production MFA graduate degree in USC School of Cinematic Arts. I'm currently preparing my own feature film as a director. I would love to learn from a legendary director like you who makes stories for worldwide audiences. It is such an honor to be able to interview today. So
Pleasure. And good luck.
Thank you. What touched me the most is that you insisted on making a lot of great movies during the most difficult time in your life. My parents, they're filmmakers too, and in the past years, I used to help them create their movies. And that was a very difficult experience because the cost of film reels and release prints were expensive, and also it was really complicated procedure. I deeply feel that the technology promotes the development of movies, and digitalization gives us filmmakers more space to be creative. So I really admire your effort and courage of developing the most advanced film technology right now in the industry. So as a pioneer of this new era, would you like to share with us what does 120 frame rates look like for our audience? What drives your enthusiasm towards the technology? And what's your vision in the future of this technology? Thank you.
First of all, facing today's world, movie world, I'm as confused as anybody. I'm a very low-tech person. Things happened about 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, when I made Life of Pi, that movie. I decided to do 3D, and that requires digital filmmaking. So for the first time, I was a die-hard old-fashioned filmmaker and very low-tech. But that's the first time I get encountered with digital filmmaking and dimensionalized movie making. And that really changed just about everything. It's my first experience, so halfway into it, things start to not make sense. Why do we go about digital filmmaking, which we had to, at least say more or less, but we used old technology, something in the back, and still not as good as filming. We're imitating something 40 years ago and not as good. Something don't add up. So to see the three-dimensional movie making, I have to change, to adjust to the digital filmmaking, which is the exposure to the look, which doesn't really have an aesthetic of its own. All we know is movie. That's all we know. Two-dimensional movie, square. You trust it. Like everything, I was thrown off. At the same time, I was making the most difficult movie. We got tiger, we got a kid, we got 3D, we got water. All the top-notch difficulties in a philosophical book. Try to make a very commercial and very commercial mainstream movie. So I was very perplexed. But after that movie, I got lucky. The movie was a success, got an Oscar and everything. I got to think about how we make digital movie. We're into that era already. Film is kind of a declining industry. It's very hard to find good craftsmanship. The industry has changed. The projection, the theater changed. A lot of things changing. So I'm facing the future. It gets to what I want to do. I think digital, because it has a more realistic look, it requires dimension, because it comes along with that. To do that, your observation is a lot sharper because you have two eyes coming to a point, very much like life. It requires more realism, even though you're dreaming. So how do we dream with reality? So all those questions bother me. Everything I learned since from a kid watching movie, fantasize about it, to film school, to a professional maker, everything got thrown off. I was off balance. I, I feel we need something new. And 24 frame is not a starter. I think at least 60 frame, you're able to watch dimensionalized pictures when the two eyes come together. It's just two starters because your eyes, your perception is a lot sharper. So it's really about, to me, it's not about technology or what kind of movie you're making, but it's really about what movie making can be in a digital era. I think we just need something new. I'm groping. I think 120 is, it takes about 100 frames per second just to not see the stroke, to perceive the image, not only lifelike, but without problem. I think that's what it takes. And it comes to 120 because a multiple of 24 frames and 30 frames of television. And also when you want to do 60 frame in the future for television, it's the multiple of all that. It took a filmmaker like me to aware of there's something new there. I think it's a new sensation. I think to me, it's a changing of relationship between the viewer and filmmaker and the media. I think it's something new, but we have a lot of baggage because we watch movie for 100 years. We've been trained, we've been tuned in certain ways. We make story, we associate with movie in certain ways. I think young generation like yourself is less burdened than people like me or Lisa. We have more baggage with us, and we're proud of that. You know, we did pretty good with movie makings, human beings like everybody. We're very proud of that. But when you grab something digital, I think I don't see the point of imitating film when you have digital. I think I really encourage you. It might not be my generation, but to your generation, you should create something new and sensational and explore new possibilities. I think that's the nature of movie. That never changes. That's old fashioned, which is keep creating new excitement, discovering new, finding that innocence we had, the original excitement to something. If you keep churning out of the same turn rice, 炒冷饭, just keep churning the same old rice, no matter how good you are, there's no excitement, there's no innocence about it. You have to be doing something and watching something that's both familiar and unknown, between wills and unwillingness. I think that's the sweet spot we want to dream. But let's not forget technologies do a service to our imagination. And I would not worry that it's too realistic or technology take over imagination, because technology can never catch our imagination. That I'm confident. Imagination is there. You never catch it. We shouldn't flatter ourselves.
You're such a pioneer of our era and just leading all of us looking towards the future. What effort and development have you made in this 120 frame rate film production or post?
The workflow is very hazardous, very difficult. I cannot even give you, I need a technician to explain what it's like, the workflow. It's very, very difficult. I would say if it's difficult for me, it's very difficult for anybody. We don't have lab, so we need to create a lab of our own to process the images, to create dailies. That lab go along with the filmmaking. It's very clumsy. I hope through our experiences, it can be as easy as just hold up a camera and shoot. It's really difficult. Even focus pulling is difficult. Your eyes are so sharp. How do you make movie with this kind of sharpness? That's very challenging. I think post needs to change. The whole process of images should change. The way we pretend something happened. You know, movies pretending something happened. No, this used to be a stat. You don't buy that anymore. And then you keep improving. In a digital era, I think we can pretend through digital efforts. 120 is for me. I think that's a new beginning and certain brightness and a certain understanding of dimensionalized movie making, which is two eyes come to a point instead of something flat where the surface is is solid. You know, screen is a screen. It's like a wall, something you trust. But when you dimensionalize, it's more illusional. It's something, you know, it's more illusion. It's more real, but more illusionized. That requires 120, I think. It's 100, right? 120 is just easy for the industry. I think that's a new beginner, and also resolution. You cannot add resolution without, because there's a relationship between resolution and frame rate. You cannot get resolution just by raising resolution. You have to raise frame rate as well. So it all come together. It's a formula. It's a scientific, no. I'm not an expert on that, but you cannot raise one or another. They all come together. It's like in science, you have an activation point. Only everything up to that point, then the new thing clicks in. That's our sensation. And it's difficult because everybody's perception when it comes to 3D, when it comes to dimensionalized images, like life, is very different. A lot more different than when everybody look at a flat screen or something, which most of the people agree what they see. This is very, it varies from people to people. So there's something new. I think it requires scientific studies, and scientists and artists should work together. We cannot do one just by ourselves. You have to work together. It needs experimental. It needs efforts. It takes budgetary efforts. You need to change the industry. You need to change the ecosystem. That leads to virtual production. I see some of the questions you might want to ask. What's virtual production? I think we're heading that direction. I think we're going to go through a revolutionary time in filmmaking, in creating story, in stimulate how we have to study the cognitive side, how we process image in our head to create story. I think just the rules of the game has to change. The methodology has to change. I think it's wrong to stick to the past, how we used to know, and while we're dealing with a new sensation, new stories, new ways of movie making. I think we're just in the beginning. I would like to see we have a theater chain that can make this kind of movie available for filmmakers. And more importantly, we need filmmakers to dig in and to create those kind of cinema. You cannot just build a projection system without the goods. You have to make movies. So we need young filmmakers like yourself. We need an army of filmmakers to get into it. The whole lot of things need to change. It's very hard. If I'm doing by myself, I'm like Paul Hui. Like I kept saying, it's like the Marine lying on the barbed wire so people can step over. I didn't invent 120. It's just, to my eyes, it takes that much to see the images properly. And then there's a lot of things that come along with that. Once you see properly, how do you use it? How do you deal with focus? How do you deal with story? Where your eyes goes, when people's eyes go into different things, you see a lot more. In your mind's eye, it's a lot sharper. You can comprehend, absorb, and digest a lot more images and information, and you want more. It's very different than when you watch on a flash, how we used to watch movies. A lot of people think we're fine. We can do the same thing forever. It's all fine. Just keep doing the same thing. But I hope some of us will head on with it and discover something new, that the new excitement. And I'm really looking forward to you young generations. Just when you go ahead, create your new thing, don't forget where we come from, like us old guys. I really want to pass that along to you. I see myself as a guinea pig, like a pathway for you. I do think digital cinema is something else. It's not an imitation of film. And it's right now it's very difficult. But I see things are changing. We're heading that direction. And the pandemic really speed that up. Because it's very hard to make the movie the same old way. You gather hundreds of people. Share experience with you, but you have to find your steps. That's what I found. Yeah, you have to find your ways. My hope is in your generation.
Wow. Thank you very much for your insight. There's so much to absorb. I believe the scientists and engineers and also filmmakers right now are all very exciting, and they are brainstorming and blood bubbling, trying to think of if there is any new way to contribute to this new technology for the future, and to help you support your filmmaking, and we all could cooperate together. Thank you very much for your time and energy and your wisdom.
And good
Thank
luck.
you.